Keith, we've mentioned it a few times, the seminars. I want to discuss those because I find them to be so interesting. My own bias. I'm like, what? A seminar from a ref, ADCC. Okay, maybe he's going to probably just stand there and tell us the rules. But no, so you're actually teaching technique as well as integrating strategy, typically within the context of ADCC. And it's been super interesting. It's a very unique seminar, something that I haven't personally ever seen anything quite like before. Can you tell me how you typically conduct the seminars? You don't obviously have to give up the secret sauce.
Yeah, I'll give up a lot of the secret sauce right now because I don't think that there's anyone that currently would be able to replicate and compete with the type of seminar that I'm teaching. And you explained exactly perfectly kind of what the main issue that I have with my seminars is and then what they do. And it took me a long time to figure this out because, when I first started teaching seminars, I was like a blue belt. So nobody is going to want to have a blue belt come out and teach seminars. And so I had to think about what's the best way that I can get the most people in the door and provide them the most value for their money. So I do mostly donation-based seminars, so value for their money is not really a huge question. People just pay what they want. If they think the seminar sucks, they pay $5. But typically people pay somewhere between $35 and $50. And I think that if you're a budding jujitsu athlete, you should 100% do donation-based seminars. It's the easiest way to get your foot in the door.
Agree.
But but what do I actually do in my seminars? So I thought a good long hard time about how I'm going to do this thing. And I thought, okay, if I just do something like you first mentioned, what you probably assumed my seminars would be, which is where we sit down and talk about the rules. Well, that's only going to get competitors that are super interested in the rules to come into the seminar. And that is extremely limited. There's very little value to the people who don't compete in doing that. So I thought to myself, all right, well, what can I do to leverage my position as an official for ADCC, leverage my knowledge rather, and integrate it in a way that's going to allow more people to get value out of my seminar. And what I came up with was, well, I train under one of the best coaches in the history of jujitsu. My jujitsu is not awful, so I can show like some good stuff to people. And then I have this rules stuff that I can talk about. And so what I came up with was, well, why don't I just show the set of really good techniques and then put it in the context of ADCC? So the first seminars that I taught, and I've changed how I teach my seminars a lot since then, but the first seminar that I ever taught was in Germany. I used to, like I said, I used to live in Germany, and I taught a 3-hour seminar, and the first hour was about the no points period, the second hour was about the points period, and the third hour was about the overtime. So we did a 3-hour seminar. Bit of a marathon for those guys, but they don't really get very much stuff in Germany, so they were all super happy to have me. The first hour, I taught what we kind of talked about at the beginning. When you get your guard passed, you don't want to expose your back. And so the worst thing that can happen to you is that you get mounted, right? If you're never exposing your back, the worst thing that you can do that can happen to you is you get mounted positionally. Obviously, you could get submitted or whatever, but nobody is taking your back. So the best position to get is mount. Now, let's look at mount. What's like a good series of moves that you can do from mount to get you out of mount without exposing your back? And so my first ever seminar, I taught a series that we call high bridge, which is a fairly uncommon mount escape. I think popularized by Oliver Taza at ADCC. It's basically an escape style where you bridge all the way up onto your shoulder, flip your hips over, and there's a ton of stuff that you can do from there, right? And you minimize back exposure, so it gets you a good set of techniques in the context of ADCC. Okay, context of ADCC, you don't want to expose your back. Good set of techniques, high bridge. The second hour was all the points period, and so I taught guard passing strategies to score points. And back in the day, I didn't know as much as I know currently about Toreando passing, and so I just taught high tripod passing. And the idea is that if you can pin the head and shoulders before you pass the legs, then it's going to be significantly easier to finish the guard pass at the end of at the end. It's going to be able to easier to pin them versus if you don't control the head and shoulders, they just spring up the turtle and you lose the pass completely. And then the last section was the overtime where I taught how to initiate from the standing position, how to shoot when you shoot, how to follow up your shot recovery, short offense, all this stuff, right? And so that was the thought process that went into it. And I've developed some trimmed down seminars since then because 3 hours is a lot for most people. So I typically teach like an hour and a half, and then I leave 15 to 20 minutes for some positional sparring. We do like mock matches and stuff, and then I'll stay as long as people want afterwards for Q&A. And I think a lot of the times people think that they can only ask me questions about the rules, and they don't really have any context to ask me questions about the rules. But sometimes people are like, okay, yeah, this move that you taught to teach me more about it, or I saw that you taught a guillotine seminar, so can you tell me something about guillotine or whatever? So yeah, that's like more or less what I teach now. It's a mixture of good techniques and the way to use them in the context of ADCC rules. And if you've never had me at your gym for a seminar before, I'll probably teach a seminar about turtle where we'll cover how to turtle, why you turtle in ADCC, when to turtle, when not to turtle, good things to do from the turtle. There's a moment that I also teach about how sweeps work in ADCC, but it's mostly technique, right? So I'll teach, Hosoto Makikomi and, kipping escape and blah, 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 like all this stuff, right? It's all good technique, but it's in the context of the rules. So even if you don't compete or you don't plan on competing, a lot of people think it's cool to see, like, I remember watching that match and this happened and now I understand why it happened. Or you don't care at all, you still get some good content for using in your game. And if it really sucked, then just throw me $5 and leave and it's no big deal. It's donation based. So I'm striving to provide a super, super high quality product. So, like I said, most people are giving somewhere between 35 or 50 or $70 because the product that I'm offering, they get a lot of value out.